Story 1. I was overweight and unkempt for a while. Then I improved myself, lost weight, gained muscle, and maintained my hair, and it was like I was suddenly visible to people. Looks truly matter. Anyone who says otherwise isn't unattractive enough to really understand that. Story 2. I overheard a group of women in my department at work talking when they didn't know I was on the other side of the door outside the break room. They were discussing having dates for Valentine's Day, and I think two of them were single, and they were all talking about the men that worked in our department and if they should ask them out. My name came up, and I know they were talking about me because I was the only one with my name, and it was flattering for all of half a second before it became obvious they were using the idea of being romantically involved with me as an insult. So that. Story 3. I've always heard if you're beautiful, you'll know it because people will go out of their way to let you know. So, if you don't know, then you know. You know? Story 4.1. When a friend of the opposite sex hugs all the other friends at the end of the year but gives you a handshake instead. When your Tinder date says she can easily get good-looking guys but is now looking to settle down. Yes, I've actually been told this. Story 5. Kids will tell you. Kids are so brutally honest. If you're around kids, they may say you're so pretty or some insult. Kids just don't realize you're not supposed to say everything that pops into your head. Story 6. When I was younger, I was absolutely not a catch. As I got closer to 30, suddenly a lot of ladies and even some guys started finding me handsome or whatever. The biggest change I noticed was how people seemed genuinely happier to see me. They would light up, smile, and get more talkative. None of that happened back when I was an out-of-shape weirdo with zero fashion sense and a $10 haircut. Edited to add. So, to answer the original poster's question, you walk into a room and nobody notices or cares. Story 7. If people smile at you a lot, hold eye contact a little too long, or suddenly start acting like they've got something in their eye, you might be considered attractive. Or they could just be really into your style. Either way, it's a win. Story 8. You don't need to figure it out. You will be informed. If you are a woman, your guaranteed sign is when men go out of their way to tell you that they do not want to be intimate with you, and then are furiously angry if you tell them that it is cool, you were never going to offer them the chance. Story 9. When you ask a stranger on the street something, and instead of answering, they hide their purse, start walking faster, avoid eye contact, and totally ignore you. Story 10. I think I'm an attractive person, but I struggle with my weight. So I've experienced life as both being considered conventionally attractive when skinny and somebody's type when overweight. I was overweight in high school but lost 80 pounds in my early 20s, and the difference in how people treated me rocked my world. Strangers were more open to talking to you in passing. Shop assistants immediately greeted you and were eager to help, and generally more people met your eye and smiled at you. I had people I had known for years suddenly being more friendly, and men who never paid me notice suddenly making their interests very clear. I actually found it really hard to deal with and felt bitter about the attention a lot of the time. I've gained some baby weight since, and being an older chubby mother has made me invisible again. People in the street don't look at me, store attendants ignore me, and strangers look wary if I talk to them in passing. People aren't nasty to me, but there is a noticeable difference in how willing people are to interact with me in a way I can't quite put into words. I don't believe I go through some kind of personality change depending on my weight, so I've concluded that the world becomes more open or closed to you depending on how attractive you are. Story 11. Honestly, I think it is less about being unattractive and more about how people treat you. Like, if you notice strangers are less friendly, people interrupt you more often, or you do not get the same kind of attention others do, it might make you wonder. But the thing is, conventionally attractive is so subjective and tied to trends, it does not even mean as much as people think. Confidence and how you carry yourself can honestly change the game, though no matter what. Story 12. I put myself on the internet twice. The comment section focused on my unappealing appearance over the actual subject. One was for cosplay, in which I was showing off a face-covering helmet. The other was renovation advice for a loose floorboard. It wasn't even a shot of my face, just an unfortunate angle of my foot. Everyone pointed out my lack of ankle and assumed morbid obesity instead of offering actual advice. People will let you know. And if you're from an Asian family, all your aunties and grannies will tell you straight to your face, regardless of age. Story 13. When I go out with a friend, men who pass by us would look at her or stare, but it was like I was invisible. The funny thing is, I have always been confident and thought I was attractive until that moment. Story 14. If people strike up conversations with you and generally act interested in the things you have to say before knowing anything about you, you are attractive. If you make a post on social media and get a ridiculous number of likes in a very short time, you are probably attractive. If you're a man and women approach you easily, you're attractive. Looks matter. It just makes people feel morally superior when they say they don't. Story 15. People refer to you as beautiful. Beautiful people do not need a label to remind them of what they are. It is like calling the bald guy curly. Also, when most of your relationships were, I am not into public displays of affection, but we can hold hands when we meet at each other's houses, and hey, let's keep this thing our little secret from the rest of the group and see how long it takes for them to figure it out. I was the proverbial moped for most of my teens to my 30s. Story 16. Where do I start? Nobody has ever shown interest in you in your life. Dating applications do not work despite putting in a lot of effort. Nobody cares if you are single or not, and nobody tries to set you up with anyone. You do not get treated as nicely as attractive people in general. You only receive compliments from your parents. Nobody initiates any interaction with you. Losing significant amounts of weight does not change how people act towards you. Self-improvement as a whole has no effect. Story 17. When the class has to write a compliment about each student, and you get your paper back and every single comment says quiet, and not one says cute, pretty, or handsome. If you have a couple thousand followers on social media and you post a selfie for the first time in years, and it gets 0 to 1 likes because even your few dozen mutual friends, many of whom you speak to often, are carefully avoiding it, when you yourself also carefully avoid looking at it. In nearly 30 years, not one person has ever had a crush on me or said I was in any way cute, pretty, or handsome, although I have occasionally gotten the faint praise, "You have pretty eyes," which is also true of every other person on the planet. Some of us are just born strange and eerie goblins. Story 18. I am 35. I have never successfully received a phone number from the opposite sex. No, that is nothing. The only time I get lucky in that regard is if I charm them on a dating app. Story 19. To all my fellow non-beautiful people, don't be sad. Most humans are average looking. So while we may not be the most attractive, likely we are in the average looking category. And I don't think that's bad. Story 20. I'm autistic, and while my presentation is less obvious at 47, that wasn't always the case. I just assumed I was unattractive, as I never had success with girls despite a lot of effort to talk to people. I eventually got pretty down about myself. I remember being at a coworker's party when I was 20 and was sleepy from smoking too much. I was partially conscious in someone's living room and could overhear my coworkers chatting out on the porch. I heard a group of female coworkers discussing all the guys we worked with. They would fawn over the best-looking guys and have polite disagreements over the others. Eventually, I came up in conversation. One of them said, "Oh, Jesus," and laughed as though I was a joke. But another said something like, "Oh, come on. If he wasn't like that, you know you would," or something like that. The rest seemed to agree, including the first, who made a reference to me having a good body, but that she wouldn't be able to take all the talk about bugs. They all laughed and moved on. For some reason, that inspired me. I was not as hopeless as I had previously thought. Story 21. When multiple random people tell you to your face that you're ugly, that's what gave it away for me when I was younger. When you have a boyfriend and everyone wonders why he's with you because he's so handsome. Looking back at old pictures, I really don't get it. I was a cute girl. I guess people are just really mean to teens and young people. I was a little weird, but not ugly. Story 22. If you tell someone that you think you are ugly, they respond with anything other than your looks. They will always try to change the conversation entirely. That's not true, you have a great personality. I didn't say anything about my personality. Story 23. I used to work at a hospital that was primarily for the elderly, almost exclusively all men. All my cute, Attractive coworkers would get hit on constantly, but not me. Sometimes someone would hold the door open for me, but otherwise I got nothing. I also don't really have stories about people staring at me, hitting on me, or even paying any attention to me. I don't get treated poorly, but I also don't get special treatment. I am basically invisible. I guess I don't have any real complaints, though. I'm still happily married with kids. Story 24. First ever post on Reddit as a long-time scroller, and it's going to be all about how totally attractive I am. To answer the question, people will just tell you, and you'll kind of know even if they didn't tell you directly. I was a weird, pale, skinny, nerdy teenager and young adult. I had plenty of friends but couldn't get a date to save my life. I gave up trying and just kind of lived my life without pursuing anything romantic. No one pursued me either, so I was single until my mid to late 20s, when I started actually getting my act together. I started eating right and going to the gym mostly as a newfound interest and hobby, and just kept going with it. When friends started openly commenting on how much better I looked, I started taking my appearance a bit more seriously. In addition to training in the gym, I started going to a real barber and figuring out what kind of haircut worked best for my face. I read a little on the internet and learned the basics of fashion, then gradually replaced my wardrobe, which was direly needed because I'd gained around 20 kilograms in mostly muscle by the time I was looking down the barrel of turning 30. To tell the cruel truth, people are just nicer to me now. Women are noticeably happier around me. I catch people's eyes regularly, and the mean or dismissive edge I used to detect from some other guys is gone. You know that thing that goes around Reddit every once in a while, where men post about how they never receive any compliments or how they remember the tiny few compliments they have received for their entire lives. It's completely true until and unless you're good looking. I can't think of a single good thing anyone said about me for most of my life, but I could sit here and inflate my ego for a pretty long time reeling off some of the stuff people have said about me since I started trying. I still remember almost all of them, of course. Some other signs: I casually use dating apps, just Tinder and Bumble these days, and never gave a thought to getting regular matches or women even occasionally messaging me first. But if you head over to the Tinder subreddit, you'd think no such thing was a possibility for anything less than a Hemsworth. I can approach people in social situations and just strike up a conversation, and nobody treats me like a weirdo anymore. People react positively to hobbies and interests that previously had them rolling their eyes. I talk about hiking, working out, kickboxing, or jiu-jitsu, and no one bats an eye. I talk about how I taught myself to code in C# via YouTube videos, and everyone loses their minds. My nerd hobbies aren't off-putting stuff anymore. They're fun and quirky. If there's any piece of advice I can give my fellow guys who maybe aren't the most confident in their appearance, it would be as follows. Genetics and luck are a huge factor, and there are some things about your appearance that you cannot change, but thinking like that is useless. A lot of it is within your control, and you can change it. You might never walk out of the gym looking like Chris Evans, but you can get to a much better version of yourself, and that version of you will not only look better, but be healthier and stronger and faster. Why wouldn't you want that? Complain all you like about the bad hand life dealt you, but ultimately the only person who can do anything about it is you. And maybe you can't do all that much, but you can definitely do something. Are you doing something? Story 25. I was born with a facial deformity, so my own parents let me know from a very young age. When you're a little girl and no one ever says you're cute. Story 26. My last ex broke up with me because she didn't find me attractive anymore and couldn't explain why. In the 6+ years since, I haven't tried to flirt or ask out anyone, and it's the same vice versa. I haven't been hit on, flirted with, or asked if I have a girlfriend. When I stopped pursuing, any and all romantic or sexual moments in my life stopped too. Story 27. Getting compliments on everything but your bodily or facial appearance. I get compliments on literally everything else, but never my body or face. On the plus side, I am told that I'm an intelligent, kind, romantic, funny, well-dressed guy with a great voice. Story 28. Conventionally attractive is a trap. 90% of it is confidence and caring enough to take care of yourself, such as showering, brushing your teeth, taking care of your hair, and doing the bare minimum of working out. You can be overweight and be attractive. You can be thin as a beanstalk and be attractive. However, you can be muscular and basic and whatever other tag you want to put on it, But if you don't have any confidence and you're not taking care of yourself, people are not going to see that in you. Story 29. Go to a nursing home and walk around for a bit. Their brains have decayed to the point that they have no social filters anymore, so they will just start telling you things.